All right, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to be reviewing what we have learned thus far with calculating slope. We've talked about how to calculate slope when it's on a graph, how to calculate slope when it is in a table. So we're going to go through 4 examples on how to find the slope of a line. So without further ado, here we go. So remember, slope is equal to the change in y over the change in x. We sometimes will see it referred to as m. That is the same thing as slope. It's the mathematical abbreviation for slope. We say m. We also have a couple other mathematical abbreviations. The change in y, we call that delta y. Delta means change. And the change in x, we sometimes say is delta x. So remember, it's how much we go up or down compared to going to the right. So whenever we read a line, we always go from left to right. That's going to tell us whether it's going to be increasing or decreasing. Is that line going up the y-axis, or is that line going down the y-axis? So let's take what we know about slope and apply it to this problem. We have the coordinate point -2, -4 over on the left, and we're ending at 2, 2. We want to calculate the slope. So to do that, we have to see, okay, how much do we go up or down, and how many units do we go to the right? Well, if we start at -2, -4, we're going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we went up 6. So we would say the change in y is equal to 6. All right, so right now we're off the line. We want to get back onto the line. So we turn and we pivot. We do not count where we start. We're now starting at that last red dot. So now we're going to count how many units we need to go to the right to get back on that line. Well, we go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we went right. That's really thick. Right 4. So we now have the fraction of 6 over 4, and that's positive because if we look at our line, it seems to be increasing as we read it from left to right. So we have positive 6 over positive 4, and we know that we can simplify that down to 3 over 2. Therefore, the slope of this line is going to be positive 3 over 2. Awesome. Let's go through another example. Let's look at this example here. Remember, we always have our slope is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So we want to see how much we go up or down compared to how much we go to the right. Remember, we always read our graph going from left to right. So let's see if we're going up or down. Well, we're starting at -1, 4, and we're ending all the way at 3, 0. And as we look at this line, it seems to be going down that y-axis. So we're going to have a negative value. Let's see how much or how many units we go down. We go down 1, 2, 3, and 4. We went down 4. So it's going to be -4. Because to go down the y-axis is a negative value. You can see that down here we have -1, but all the way up here we have +5. So as we go down that y-axis, we hit negative numbers, and those negative numbers keep on decreasing, decreasing, decreasing. So now we want to figure out, okay, how many units do we need to go to the right to get back on that line? Well, we go 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we go 4 to the right, which means that the change in x is +4 because we're going in the positive direction on that x-axis. Well, we can simplify -4 divided by +4. It's going to be equal to -1. Therefore, our slope is going to be -1. Awesome. Let's keep it rolling. So we've also talked about how we find slope when we have a table of values, because remember, we can still have changes in y's and changes in x's. So let's jot down what we know. We know that slope, we refer to it as m, again, is the change in y. That's a really poorly drawn change in y. So you know what? Let's just try it all over again. We know that m is equal to the change in y. That's better. It's not great. Over the change in x. So we want to figure out what that change in y is, what that change in x is. So if I have my y column, I go from -4 to -1. How do I do that? Well, I added 3. How do we go from -1 to +2? We added 3. From 2 to 5, again, we added 3. Therefore, that consistent change in y is going to be 3. Now we need to figure out, okay, what about the change in our x values? Well, we go from 0 to 100 real quick. Real quick. Once again, so we go from 0 to 2 by adding 2. From 2 to 4 by adding 2. From 4 to 6 by adding 2. So our consistent change in our x values is 2. Therefore, our slope is going to be 3 over 2. And another way to look at this is if we look at the pairings of them. In this first to the second set of values, we went up 3 and right 2. Therefore, it'd be change in y is 3, change in x is 2. If we continue, from the second to third value, we went up 3, right 2. Likewise, from our third to fourth, we went up 3 and right 2. So each highlighted set is the same overall value. And in this case, it happens to be the same numbers, which means that our overall slope is going to be +3 over +2. Our change in y was +3 over our change in x, which was +2. We cannot simplify that, so we leave it as +3 over +2. Awesome. Let's do one more here, folks. Here we go. All right, so let's find the slope. Again, we know that the slope is equal to the change in y. That's a much better drawn change in YQ over the change in our x value. So let's look at those intervals of our y values. Our y values are down here. Well, go from 7 to 4 by subtracting 3. Go from 4 to 3 by subtracting 1, and 3 to 0 by subtracting 3. So right now we can tell that something's a little bit different. Something is not right because we're not having the exact same changes. But that doesn't mean we do not know how to find our slope. We now need to find the change in our x values. And the change in x is going to be in that top row. Well, from -4 to -1, we added 3. From -1 to 0, we added 1. From 0 to 3, we added 3. So now we have to do something similar to what we did last time. We're going to look at each changed pair. So the first change in my y was -3. The first change in my x was +3. Therefore, the slope of that set is going to be -3 over +3, which is -1 when we simplify it down. All right, so now let's go to the second interval. Our change in y was -1. Our change in x was +1. So let's look at the slope of that set. Well, what's -1 divided by +1? -1. Now we're going to try it one more time just to make sure. The change in y was -3 in that third interval. The third interval, our change in x was +3. Therefore, -3 divided by +3 is again -1, which means that our slope is equal to -1. Although it looks visually different, -3 divided by +3 looks different than -1 divided by +1, but when we simplify, because we always simplify our fractions, we end up with the same overall value. Therefore, the slope is going to be equal to -1. Awesome job today, folks. If you have any questions, please jot them down. But enjoy your day. You're working hard. Super proud of you. And I will talk to you soon. Thank you.